dusty wind howled through the frontier town of Abilene in 1875, carrying with it the stench of whiskey, gunpowder, and desperation. Inside the rowdy saloon, laughter mixed with curses as gamblers tossed cards and cowboys slammed down their mugs. In the corner, a grim spectacle unfolded. 5 young women, pale-faced and frightened, stood huddled together as the saloon's owner barked out prices. They were mail-order brides who had been lured west with false promises, only to be sold off like cattle. Their eyes darted to the door, silently praying for escape. The men laughed cruelly, bidding with coins, horses, even rifles. Each woman clutched a small bundle of belongings, locks of hair, faded letters, small keepsakes from distant homes. None of them had family nearby, no one to defend their honor. Some cowboys eyed them like possessions, others with pity they dared not show. The piano man kept playing, pretending not to notice. The sheriff was nowhere to be seen, bought long ago by whiskey and gold. Fear hung thick in the smoke-filled air, choking the 5 brides with every second that passed. Eliza, the oldest among them, whispered encouragement to the younger girls. "Stay strong," she urged, though her voice trembled. Beside her, Mary clutched her rosary until her knuckles turned white. Sarah, no older than 16, wept quietly into her sleeve. The saloon owner's voice thundered again, calling out bids, his greedy eyes glittering like a vulture's. The women exchanged desperate glances. It seemed there would be no mercy in this God-forsaken place, no rescue on the blood-soaked floors of the frontier saloon. Then the doors creaked open, and silence rippled across the room. A tall figure stepped inside, his silhouette framed by the setting sun. He wore buckskin trousers, a wide-brimmed hat, and carried no weapon in hand, though a bow and quiver rested across his back. His dark eyes scanned the room with quiet intensity. Comanche. The gamblers muttered curses, some reaching for their guns, yet the man did not flinch. He stood tall, his presence commanding the room as easily as a loaded rifle. The saloon owner sneered. "What business you got here, Injun?" He spat, gripping one of the women's arms as though to prove his dominance. The Comanche's gaze flicked toward the terrified brides. He said nothing at first, then stepped forward with deliberate calm. His voice was low, steady, and in broken English. "These women, not for you." A hush fell over the crowd. Laughter rose again, mocking him, but beneath the laughter there was unease. The Comanche did not come as a beggar. He came as a force of nature. One cowboy stood, his spurs jangling, a cruel grin on his lips. "Why don't you ride back to your people before you get yourself killed?" he taunted. The Comanche's jaw tightened. He moved closer, his eyes never leaving the women. Eliza felt a surge of hope spark in her chest, fragile yet alive. The saloon owner slammed his fist on the table. "They've been bought fair and square," he barked. But the warrior shook his head slowly. "Not bought, not sold. They free." His words cut through the smoke like a blade. Tension exploded. A pistol was drawn, its hammer clicking back. But before the trigger could be pulled, the Comanche moved with lightning speed, knocking the weapon aside and sending the cowboy sprawling. Chaos erupted. Men shouted, tables overturned, bottles shattered. Yet through the frenzy, he guided the women toward the door, shielding them with his body. Bullets whined past, splintering wood. One grazed his shoulder, but he did not falter. "Come," he commanded, his hand outstretched. The women followed, stumbling, clutching each other as they fled the hellish saloon. Outside, horses stamped nervously in the dust. The warrior mounted his painted horse and helped the women climb onto spare saddles, their skirts tangling as they scrambled to hold on. Shouts erupted behind them as armed men spilled into the street. A shot rang out, striking the dirt near the horse's hooves. The Comanche urged the animal forward, and in a cloud of dust they galloped toward the open plains. The brides clung tightly, their hearts pounding, tears streaming as freedom thundered beneath their hooves. The prairie stretched vast and endless, swallowing the sounds of the town behind them. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the pounding of horses and the cries of coyotes in the distance. The Comanche led them toward a hidden valley, where streams cut through tall grass and the wind sang soft through cottonwoods. Exhausted, the women dismounted, their hands trembling. The warrior tended his horse, then turned to face them. "Safe here," he said simply, his voice quiet but firm. For the first time, hope felt real. Eliza stepped forward, her voice shaky but grateful. "You saved us. But why?" The Comanche studied her for a long moment before answering. "I know what it is. To be taken. To have no choice. His words carried weight, scars of his own past buried within them. The women exchanged looks, recognizing the same wounds mirrored in him. He did not see them as weak or as property. He saw them as people deserving of dignity. And in that recognition, a bond began to form. Days turned into weeks as the women learned to survive in the valley. They gathered water from the stream, foraged for berries, and helped tend the horses. The Comanche taught them skills: how to listen for danger in the wind, how to find shelter in storms, how to walk softly upon the land. At night they sat around a small fire, telling stories of homes left behind. The fear in their eyes slowly faded, replaced by resilience. For the first time, they were no longer victims. They were becoming strong. Mary found herself praying not for deliverance but in gratitude. Sarah began to laugh again, her youth restored bit by bit. Even Eliza, who had carried the heaviest burden, felt her spirit lift as she watched the Comanche guide them with patience and quiet strength. Yet danger still lingered. The men from the saloon had not forgotten their humiliation, and whispers of a posse drifted across the plains. The women knew their freedom came with risk, but none wished to return. They had chosen this life over chains. One night, under a sky thick with stars, Eliza approached the warrior. "You risked everything for us," she said softly. "We owe you our lives." He shook his head. "No, you owe nothing. You are free." She searched his eyes, seeing the loneliness hidden there, the pain of battles fought alone. "And you?" she asked gently. "Are you free?" For the first time he looked away. His silence was answer enough. Eliza reached for his hand, and in that touch 2 broken souls found something like healing. When the posse finally came, guns glinting in the sun, they expected frightened women ready to be dragged back. Instead, they found defiance. The brides stood tall, their fear replaced by fire. At their side, the Comanche warrior faced the riders with unyielding strength. The men hesitated, unnerved by the change. Bullets might win the day, but they could not break the spirit that burned before them. And as the wind carried dust across the plains, the women knew their lives were no longer bound by cages of men. In the end, the posse retreated, unwilling to face a battle against both the warrior and the will of 5 women who had tasted freedom. The prairie returned to silence, the danger fading into the horizon. Together they turned back toward the valley, where streams still flowed and fires still burned. They were no longer mail-order brides, no longer property, no longer victims of greed. They were survivors, bound not by contracts or chains, but by the choice to live free, and that freedom was worth everything.